got the most pressing questions that Cleveland Browns fans are wondering right now. We took a look at all the questions you guys have asked me recently. We're going to answer them, everything you want to know, whether it's a take, a question, Cleveland Browns related, we got you. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of quarterback questions right now about the Browns. Starting Gabriel, keeping Shedeur at QB3. We've got plenty to talk about, folks. But first, don't jinx it. Like the video to beat the Minnesota Vikings. Smash that like button right now for good luck. We need it. I think it'll work in London, overseas. Let's do this, Browns. I expect Cleveland to get this W. And without further ado, let's get into our first question here. Dolphin X. He actually has a take where he says, oh, thank God they benched Flacco. It was time, Dolphin X. I'm with you. I'd been calling for it for weeks because at some point it's the quarterback's fault. He has just been a turnover machine for the Browns. He looks slow, can't extend plays. He had his moments where he'd throw an accurate pass and we'd get a big gain to Jeudy or something like that, and we'd be like, oh, he's back, and then he turns it over. Or completely misses a receiver, and the Browns have to punt. Whatever Cleveland ended up doing, whether they started Gabriel or Shedeur, it was going to be Gabriel, but either way, you just had to bench Flacco. Can't get worse than that. So I know the offense has problems, but quarterback was definitely one of them. Finally, Cleveland makes a move that I think will benefit the offense. We'll see it this Sunday. Let's move on to Jeep Wolf. Says, was this quarterback change from the poor Flacco performance or some other reason? Just hope it's for wins and not for job security. Probably Kevin Stefanski's job security you're thinking of, Jeep Wolf. I think it's because of the poor Flacco performance. Stefanski said that this was his decision. So at some point, I just think you can't justify what we were seeing from Flacco. You can make excuses all you want, but he has 8 turnovers. And so I think that's why they looked at it. They said, look, he's playing bad. Let's just go test out our rookies. You drafted 2 of them. You knew we had to see them at some point. And so I'm glad they're finally going to Gabriel, who they have at 2 on their depth chart. I think, to comfort you, it's for wins, not just for job security. But we'll see what ends up happening. G-Fresh, next question. Jerry Jeudy is a 1B receiver who is a viable option at wide receiver that is attainable either free agency or trade. Oh, someone Cleveland could go out and get. Good question, G-Fresh. I think receivers that are actually on the block right now. 1, they wanted to make a blockbuster. They can go ahead and get Chris Olave from the New Orleans Saints. 2, and I talked about this a little bit, Demario Douglas on the trade block right now for the New England Patriots. They have not been using him as much. His snap count is significantly low this year after he was an impact player in 2024 for the New England Patriots. He had over 600 yards receiving. Now, they're hardly even using him. He actually caught the Patriots' first touchdown of the season this year, and since then, he's only had 4 other catches. So, clearly, something's going on in that Pats wide receiver room where they're moving away from Pop Douglas. I think he's a legitimate candidate to be traded and someone Cleveland could actually get to add some depth to that wide receiver room. Now, I would love more of a star wide receiver in Cleveland, though, because if you're saying Jeudy is a 1B, we need a 1A. Now, bigger names that are actually on the market are Tyreek Hill. People have talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. I think Tyreek would be he's hurt, obviously, but he's been on the trade block for a while, and someone Cleveland could use next year as a star wide receiver. So, bigger name. The problem is our cap space with that, G-Fresh. I don't know if we can pay one of the star wide receivers in the league. We're still suffering from the Watson deal. But those are a couple realistic options maybe Cleveland could go out and get. Then we got a question from Shadore the GOAT. Hey, got the watch picture in his profile. Why is Shedeur stuck at quarterback 3 still? He should be 1, but 2 shouldn't even be a question. All right, we got our a question from a Shedeur fan, I'm guessing. It's a fair question. Why is he still at 3? It makes no sense. Flacco being named the backup for what? He's a failed experiment for the Browns in the first 4 weeks of the season. We know he's not the answer. So if Gabriel's not the answer, you're going to go back to him? No, that makes no sense. Before I totally rip into the Browns about this, I want to see their depth chart next week because this is brand new that Gabriel's the starter. They still have had all their practices where Flacco's been practicing with the starters. This is the first week Gabriel will fully practice with the ones. He's had some, not all, obviously. Next week, there's no excuse why Shedeur wouldn't be practicing with the twos and at least be activated as a backup on game day. Otherwise, what's the point of having him on the team? Why'd you draft him then if you don't intend to see what you have in him at all? Make no mistake about it. There's no logic to Shedeur being QB3. We will keep you updated on if he moves up the depth chart and can get a chance later in the season to play so Cleveland can evaluate both rookie quarterbacks that they drafted. What do you guys think? Should Sanders be upgraded to quarterback 2? Should he be named the Browns' backup now that Gabriel has been named the Browns' starter? Type yes if you think he should. Type no if you don't think Sanders should be the backup. Before we get into some more Cleveland Browns news and rumors, let me tell you about our friends over at PrizePicks. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Honestly, I'm just so ready for football to be back on Sundays, to see a fresh quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. All is right with the world, and I'm big into daily fantasy with PrizePicks. I'm obsessed with it because it makes all the games more entertaining. And before the Browns play, I lock in on all my players in my lineup and their player projections. PrizePicks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in, and PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you could still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. I heard that was the case, and I said, I'm going to make a flex play myself. So I only need 2 of these picks to be correct. Isaiah Bond, more than half a rushing or receiving touchdown. I love the rookie to get his first this week. Quinshon Judkins, more than half a rushing or receiving touchdown as well. Judkins already has 2 touchdowns on the season. He's a touchdown machine, just like he was at Ohio State. Aiden Hutchinson, more than 0.75 sacks, meaning he just needs 1 sack. And then my lineup would be correct. What I saw from Hutchinson, well, clearly he's capable of getting sacks. So download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. All right, folks. Getting on to our next question. From Dallas, says, hear me out. Fire Stefanski. Promote Schwartz to head coach. Now I'm listening. Bring back AVP to be offensive coordinator. Promote Jacques Caesar to defensive coordinator if he wants to bring back Bill Callahan. Hashtag Browns fan delusion. Wow. All right. Dallas, the only part I'll listen to you about is that first part. Fire Stefanski. Promote Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz is the only coach that I think should be a lock to stay in Cleveland. What he's done as a defensive coordinator over the years, he's turned around the Browns' defense. 2023, it was stacked. 2025, they're still ranked first in total defense. And since 2023, Cleveland has given up the least amount of first downs of any team in the NFL. So defensively, what Jim Schwartz has done, the way he schemes the Browns' defense, applies pressure, develops defensive players. He's reviving Devin Bush's career right now. One of our tackle leaders. Great for developing Carson Schwarzenegger, who looks like a stud. Love Jim Schwartz. I bet he'd have success as the head coach as well. The thing with Stefanski is he's kind of got a short leash for me now, too. Because everyone's frustrated with him. When things are going wrong, you start pointing to the head coach. The play calling, whatever it is, Gabriel will be the 12th starting quarterback under Kevin Stefanski. At some point, if this doesn't work out, they're going to be calling for Stefanski to get out of there. So that's what I have to say about that, Dallas. Joshua Miller. Good to see you here, Josh. As always, he says, if Gabriel gets hurt in the game before the bye and is unable to play after the bye, do the Browns turn to Sanders or Flacco? Great question from Joshua Miller. As it stands on their depth chart, it would be Flacco as the 2. But I think logically, you cannot make an argument that after the bye, Flacco would return as the Cleveland Browns starter. Now you're at a point where you're even later in the season. You're closer to the future than you are now. And Flacco is not going to be here next year. He's on a one-year deal. He's 40 years old. You have two rookie quarterbacks that you need to see. Can they be the guy of the future before the next NFL draft? Because you have the Jaguars draft pick as well as your own first rounder. Could end up being high picks. Potential to draft a quarterback again. I don't want that to be the case. I want one of the guys we drafted last year because we drafted two rookies to end up being our guy. So then we can load up an offensive line and defense in next year's draft. So logically, Josh, what I think would happen if Gabriel did get hurt and couldn't play after the bye, Cleveland would turn to Shedeur Sanders. That's the most likely scenario as well for Shedeur to finish out the season. Let's see what we have in that rookie. 100 block. Got a question for us as well. Do you think Watson will restructure contract to help the team? I hope so. But the problem with this contract is there's a lot of legal lawyer fine prints in this massive deal that they made. And some of it Cleveland just can't get out of. Now, there's certain exceptions, right? Had Watson been suspended again, Cleveland wouldn't have had to pay him as much. So I was actually kind of hoping he would get suspended for some more games so that Cleveland could get out of the deal a little bit more. But of course, finagled his way to be guaranteed all that money, $200 million. So if there was any way that Watson could help out the Browns, absolutely, I think that he should. Cleveland needs some more cap space, and he's not even been able to play for us. But I think it's harder than it sounds. There's a lot that goes into that deal that Cleveland is just unfortunately trapped and locked into because they made it. Kathy got a question for us as well. Dillon Gabriel will play 4 to 6 games just like Flacco. That's exactly what I've been saying. That's exactly what I think will happen. That's kind of enough sample size to test if you've got the guy or not. We saw the 4 weeks of Flacco, and it was just so clear that it wasn't working on offense. The ranks were putrid. You're going to the bench. I feel like Gabriel, I say 4 to 6 because I feel like he'll be better than Flacco. I feel like he'll get like a little bit of a boost, and it won't be so bad where it's like, all right, after 4 games, you're done. I think we'll get to see some good reps for him. And then, if it's looking better, if he looks like the guy, well, there you go. You got your guy. If he's not playing well either, it's going to have to be Shadore Sanders time later in the season, folks. I agree. That's the leash for Gabriel. We just had a $10 super chat come in from Bill Chessman. Thank you so much, Bill. Bill says, now my son is going to eat ramen tonight. Woof, woof. Best of luck, Dillon. Go Dogs. All right, Bill. Thank you so much for the super chat and the comment. Man, enjoy that ramen. Tell your son. Enjoy it. And best of luck to Dillon. Absolutely. Hopefully Cleveland has an improved offense. I think it'll look better. It'll look faster. Richard, 24. Do you think Quinshon Judkins would still be good in fantasy if Dillon Gabriel is the quarterback? Absolutely, Richard. Quinshon Judkins has been an absolute beast. I'm coining the term, Quinshon Judkins. He's living up to it. He's fast, explosive, great burst. He's aggressive, a violent, angry runner. Yards after contact has been incredible. And through 3 games, he's got 2 touchdowns, nearly averaging 5 yards a carry, 237 yards total in 3 weeks. I love what I'm seeing from Judkins. Watching him run, if you actually sit down, watch every carry that he gets, it's remarkable. He's motivated. He runs hard, angry, bounces off tacklers. Love what I'm seeing from QJ. The rookie clearly earned his spot as the RB1 in Cleveland. I expected that to be the case. Glad we're able to see him play. What a bright spot he's been for the Browns. You can certainly keep starting him in fantasy football. Guys, let's help our friend out. Let's help out Richard. Will Quinshon Judkins continue to be productive? Is he still a good option for our fantasy football players? Do you think he'll still have a good season? Type Y for yes in the comments if you think Judkins will continue to produce. Type N for no if you think he's going to slow down. I'd be typing Y right now. Judkins is looking so good, making the most of his touches. I think he'll continue to do so for the rest of the year. We've got to start running back in Cleveland, folks. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have more questions you want to ask me, you can head over to X, type at Joey070. That's my handle. Follow me, comment questions on there. I see all of the questions I get on Twitter, so I'm more likely to respond to you if you want to hit me up at Joey070. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. Those are the biggest Browns rumors and news that were on your mind. We're going to try and do one of these as often as we can to answer what the people want to know. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.